In Washington, ghost-like objects dart across the radar screen at the CAA Traffic Control Center at National Airport for several hours, traveling more than 100 miles an hour. Air Force jet fighters spend several hours chasing the objects plotted on the radar scope.
Something else is out there.
There's something else out there, okay.
Of all the banks and braes of bonny Scotland, none holds more fascination than the murky waters of Loch Ness.
Tell me, do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
No, he seems definite. You seem
Definitely.
definite about it. How do you see this life and where?
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
Blackwater Media presents Darkfall. Real-life encounters with the paranormal and the unexplained. Let me take you back to December of 2013. I used to work about 30 miles away from where I live. One night I'd been stuck in heavy traffic coming home. After a while, I really had to go to the bathroom. You know the feeling? You keep telling yourself that you're almost home and try to hold it until you get there. By the time I got to my exit, I knew I wasn't going to make it to my house. So I pulled up to an area where a bank was located and found an area that was isolated. Now, this area is heavily wooded, with walking trails and a lot of game, but it's also a very populated area. I pulled up a little side drive off one of the main roads. The little drive is about 100 feet long with only room for one car. It went up in elevation and had bushes on the right side facing the main road. On the left side, there was a guardrail and a view of the valley below. The area up there is huge and isolated with several buildings that are all spaced out. The place is very dark at night because there are only intermittent streetlights up there. And also at night it's pretty deserted. A few cars go through the area though, because it's a shortcut people use to go from Taylor Mill over to the 3L highway, where there's a few stores, restaurants, etc. When you're up there, you're above everything around the area. When I stopped, I got out of my car, waited a moment, and looked around to make sure there were no other cars. Now it was winter, so the bushes between where I was and the road below me didn't have many leaves on them. And because of that, you could see right through them. I was up on this little rise about 20 or 30 feet above the drive, which was 4 lanes wide. To the left of me was a street light and more woods that went down another hill to the main road. I went to the back of my car and did what I had to do. When I finished, I stood up all at once. Every hair on my body stood up, and I knew I wasn't alone. I scanned the area in front of me and must have heard something behind me because I turned around and there were 3 deer standing there, all huddled up together between my car and the guardrail, and they weren't looking at me. They were looking across the road. I looked back over there, and that was when I saw a figure standing between the bushes in front of it and the tree line behind it. And it was fucking huge. I'm about 5'10", and some of those bushes were about 6 feet tall, but they only came up to about the collarbone area on this thing. And due to the street light to the right of it, about 20 feet away, I was able to get a pretty clean outline of this thing. It had a large, dog-shaped head and pointed ears. I couldn't make out its neck, but I could make out massive shoulders. And that's when it growled. It was a deep vibration I could feel in my chest, and my body just took over at that point. Now I have to explain this part of it to you. I worked security for years in California in the music business. That means, of course, I have to really work out and train to defend myself. I kickboxed for 8 years and work out every day. I also train dogs, mainly Anatolian Shepherds and German Shepherds. Sometimes I have to establish who is the alpha, and to do that, I get them down, hold them in place, grab them by their ears, and growl until they submit. Then the training can start. So, when this thing growled at me, it was just pure instinct. I dropped down to a crouching position and growled right back at it. When I did that, it stopped growling and started sniffing the air. Its snout went up and it turned its head slightly as it was sniffing. It then took a few steps forward. I was still crouched down on all fours and moved forward, still growling at the thing. When I did that, it stopped. I stood up and kept staring right at it. I never broke eye contact with it. Then it slowly stepped back into the tree line until I couldn't make out it as clearly as before, and started to move to the right of me. The deer were still behind me. They were so close I could have reached out and touched them. I waved my arms and told them to get the hell out of there, and when I did that, they went back over the guardrail and took off down the hill. That's when I jumped in my car and got out of there as fast as I could. I felt this thing was trying to circle behind me, and I wasn't going to wait around for it to do that. Do I think I scared it? Hell no. But I do think I confused it for a couple of minutes, and that gave me time to move. I told my wife about what happened up there, but I didn't tell her exactly what I saw. She would think I was nuts, and to be honest, I thought I was a little crazy myself until I saw some images of a dogman on the internet. I know there are other things in this world that can't be explained. I've seen them. But this, god damn, this was beyond any of those things. Since that happened, I can't take that shortcut through that area anymore. A friend of mine took me back over that way once to see the area, and I was begging him to get me out of there the whole time. I thought I was going to throw up. The wildlife up there has almost totally disappeared. I never see anything up on those hills anymore. The street I live on is only about 1 mile or so down the hill from this place, and lately, we've seen coyotes on the streets like they've been chased out, and pets have started to go missing too. We've also seen a large black figure moving through our backyards down there. The dogs throughout the neighborhood go crazy regularly now too. People were calling the cops when we saw that large black figure jumping the fences. I'm concerned that it's come down from the hills after eating every goddamn thing up there.